Chapter 1. Into the Maw. The void was silent. Above the flickering ruins of dead stars, the Solari Ascendant hung like a divine relic, vast, gleaming, impossible. The mobile citadel of the Zarn Collective, it radiated light from 100 solar veins etched into its hull. Choir towers glowed with psionic flame. Force fields shimmered across translucent domes. This was no ship, it was a floating temple, a civilization's sacred heart. Kaelen Virex crouched in the docking shadows beneath a cargo hauler's undercarriage, his form cloaked in photoreactive armor, like a blot of ink on crystal. He did not belong here. Dominion-born, bone-forged, bred to kill. He stared up at the entry gates, where peace envoys and holy diplomats passed through layers of biometric scanning and psychic vetting. None of it would touch him. His breath slowed. His pupils dialed down to pinpricks. His pulse dropped below human. He counted the seconds between the flickers of the shielding. Then he moved. Unblinked, he was inside. The air shifted instantly, warm, dense with sanctified mist. The Zarn did not use technology like the Dominion. Their sensors were alive. He passed beneath a pair of whispering spore lamps, slipping past a chant-droning priest whose glowing third eye flared as he walked by. Kaelen's neural scrambler pulsed softly, just enough interference to keep the priest's aura reading unfocused. The Shadow Warden exhaled slowly and slid deeper into the temple ship's bowels. The mission was simple: sabotage the peace talks, assassinate key delegates, ensure war remained eternal. The Dominion's High Council needed the conflict to thrive. Peace meant loss of power, stagnation, compromise, and compromise was weakness. Kaelen reached the archive conduits, a web of hanging glass tubes where information passed in liquid memory strands. No cameras. No guards. The Zarn believed sacred knowledge guarded itself. He tapped the back of his neck. A spike slid from his wrist, a living blade of obsidian alloy, and plunged into the nearest strand. Memory bled from it like mercury. He uploaded a virus coded to rewrite the records of Dominion atrocities with fabricated Zarn betrayals. The treaty would die in its crib. But as the data poisoned the past, Kaelen heard footsteps, light, measured, too quiet. He rolled into the shadows, eyes narrowing. A figure appeared, tall, robed in deep violet. Her silver-gold braids shimmered like starlight, and her face was painted with 3 crescent marks of an oracle. She didn't look at him, but her eyes, luminous with psionic flame, paused on the corrupted strand. Fingers touched it. He recoiled. "You don't belong here," she said calmly, voice echoing like wind in a canyon. Kaelen lunged. She turned just as he struck, her hand rising in a burst of telekinetic force that hurled him back against a crystalline pillar with a crack of bone. He recovered fast, too fast for anything human, and drew his second blade. They clashed violently, obsidian screeching against a psionically hardened staff. Sparks flew. Glass shattered, scrolls ignited. Kaelen drove a knee into her ribs. She gasped, but twisted like smoke, spinning behind him and striking the base of his skull. Static burst through his brain. He dropped to one knee, only to sweep her legs out from under her, flipping her headlong into a stack of burning relics. They paused, both panting, both bloodied. "You're not Zarn," she hissed. "You should have stayed silent." He lunged again, only this time she was ready. Her mind opened like a gate, slamming his nerves with a scream of raw pain. Kaelen dropped his blade, twitching as his muscles spasmed uncontrollably. Blood seeped from his nose. His vision swam. But deep in his spine, something darker stirred. The kill switch. He bit down on it. With a roar, his override system surged, burning away the psionic tether. He tackled her, driving her head first into the glass floor. It cracked beneath the impact. Her blood streaked across it, and she coughed, choking on her own breath. He raised his blade to finish it. She whispered, "You don't even know what you're killing for." Kaelen froze. Something flickered behind her eyes. Not fear, but pity. He hesitated for less than a second. It was enough. A pulse of pure force erupted from her palm, hurling him through the archive walls and into a vat of glowing memory fluid. His armor sizzled, his skin burned. He writhed in agony, screaming silently as data memories poured into him. Visions of Zarn children, wounded healers, refugee ships slaughtered by Dominion hunters. Kaelen emerged from the vat, steaming, half-mad. She was gone. So was his mission timer. He staggered to his feet, dripping with stolen memories, and whispered to the shadows. This war is built on lies. But the Shadow Warden had no time for doubt. Not yet. Chapter 2. Echoes of Betrayal. The walls of the Solarii Ascendant pulsed with soft hymnal resonance, as if the ship itself were breathing. Kaelen Virex, slick with memory fluid and blood, stalked the inner sanctum corridors like a specter. His obsidian armor was cracked in places, seared where psionic burn had kissed flesh. The internal override protocols numbed the pain, but not the rot growing in his mind. He had seen too much in the archive. Not all lies, not all truth, but enough to loosen the anchor that bound him to his cause. Still, the mission had to continue. He moved like smoke through the lower tiers of the Voss Nexus. The heartbeat of the treaty conference pulsed above, a throne-like arena chamber filled with representatives of the Dominion and Zarn Collective, surrounded by harmonic fields and diplomat guard symbiotes. Peace was being drafted, line by line, word by word, while Kaelen moved to gut it from beneath. To reach the heart node relay, 8 conduits stretched from the central pillar like spider legs, each one glowing with lattice-threaded data. These weren't just power lines, they were truth feeds, broadcasting diplomatic decisions in real time to both homeworlds. If Kaelen corrupted just one, he dropped to a knee and slid his wrist blade into the terminal socket. The metal shuddered, rejecting him. Kaelen frowned. His own software, designed to infiltrate Zarn systems, was being rebuffed. Someone had already been here. Someone had fortified the node. Panic flirted with his throat, but he swallowed it down and reached deeper. Then it hit him. A jolt of electric agony ripped up his arm into his shoulder straight to the base of his skull. It was not electricity. It was a mind strike. Kaelen screamed as he hit the floor, convulsing. The shadows around him blurred and warped, coalescing into a figure. The Oracle. Her circlet glowed with violent intent. The staff in her hands was no longer ceremonial. It crackled with raw kinetic energy, each pulse aligned with her wrath. "You poison our peace," she said. "You fight for illusions." Kaelen spat, forcing himself up. "Your leaders make masks of their mercy." "You butchered our truth feed," she snapped, slamming her staff into the floor. A shockwave cracked the stone beneath his feet, hurling him backward into a pillar. A rib fractured. He felt it splinter, the pain stabbing sharp beneath his lungs. He coughed blood, wiped his lip, rose, then attacked. They met mid-air, Kaelen leaping from a wall run, blade extended in a horizontal arc, Tiala countering with a vertical staff block that sparked like a sun flare. The impact sent them spinning opposite directions. Kaelen landed and launched a volley of razor drones from his belt. They shrieked through the air like angry banshees. Tiala moved her fingers in a spinning pattern, and the drones turned to salt, disintegrating mid-slight. "Enough!" she shouted, stepping forward. Kaelen lunged again. This time he didn't aim to kill. He moved low, past her guard, and jabbed 2 fingers into her side. A micro-explosive charge burst against her shield, a direct electromagnetic pulse. Her body stiffened. She screamed as her psionic field collapsed. Miserable experience. Kaelen grabbed her throat and pinned her to the wall. "Call off the security net," he growled. "Now." Her lips bled as she smiled. Too late. Sirens screamed through the corridor. Red lights stuttered to life. They were surrounded. Kaelen turned. Zarn elite guards in exorobes sprinted toward him, spears of light drawn and ready. He didn't hesitate. He activated his final protocol. The shadow skin on his armor peeled away in flickers, revealing the arc core beneath. A device so illegal its very blueprint was erased from galactic records. It thrummed once. The corridor dimmed. Time slowed. Kaelen blurred into motion, each strike faster than the eye. His blade sheared through the first guard's neck, clean, bloodless at first, then a crimson spray as the head slipped from the stump. Another fell with a crushed chest, his armor folded inwards like origami around vital organs. A third raised his weapon. Kaelen took his arm off at the shoulder before twisting the blade around into his mouth. The fourth guard dropped his spear and ran. Kaelen didn't chase. He turned to Tiala. She sat slumped, body twitching with nerve failure. "I don't want to kill you," Kaelen said. "But I will." She raised her eyes slowly. "Then you already have." Her gaze flicked toward the upper tiers. Kaelen turned. Above, through the cracked trench peel, he saw it. The Voss Nexus had paused. The treaty proceedings had stopped, and all eyes were turned toward the blood-stained corridor, where Kaelen now stood over dead Zarn guards and a broken oracle. A single Dominion drone hovered behind him, blinking silently. Recording, broadcasting, a false flag. Kaelen's blade slipped from his hand. He had been bait. He had been seen. The first shot came from above. A diplomat's guard, reacting too slowly, firing too quickly. The bolt scorched Kaelen's side. He vanished into the smoke as chaos erupted around the Nexus. Screams, shouts, crumbling negotiations. He ran, not toward extraction, but deeper into the Ascendant. He needed answers, and he needed to know who had betrayed him. Chapter 3. The Mask Shatters. Smoke curled in thick, bitter waves through the underhalls of the Solarii Ascendant. Sirens howled in irregular pulses, wounded and dissonant. Half the lighting grid had collapsed. What remained flickered in epileptic spasms across ruined corridors and mangled bodies. Kaelen Virex moved through the carnage like a shadow with purpose. The attack, his attack, had succeeded too well. The chaos he had seeded was now a blaze that threatened to consume the entire ship. The treaty was dead, or so it would appear, but beneath the surface, something stank. It wasn't just the blood and ozone. It was betrayal, something older, colder, more precise than Kaelen's own work. He limped through a ruptured service corridor, the walls around him buckling inward. Fire licked along the edges of a cracked plasma conduit. Behind him, a Dominion drone blinked its last as he tore it apart with bare hands, its data core ripped out and shoved into his belt satchel. They'd sent his own surveillance to record the staged slaughter. They wanted him seen, not to escape, but to die as a martyr. He ducked into a ruptured ventilation shaft, pushing past shattered ductwork and dripping coolant. His mind swam, not from pain, but from the memories forced into him by the Zarn memory vat. Children vaporized in orbital strikes, healing centers crushed by Dominion shock troops, elders burned with white phosphor. His own people. His own orders. He reached the Null Archive, a chamber he'd been told didn't exist, and perhaps until today it hadn't. a myth among spies and defectors, a place where both the Zarn and Dominion hid records too damning to destroy, yet too dangerous to reveal. The door was sealed with twin mind locks, one biological, one psychic. Kaelen inserted the drone's ripped core into the terminal. It screamed, an awful digital screech as it was decrypted. His head throbbed with encrypted voices, fragments of truth bleeding through like water through cracked glass. The door opened. Inside, the air was dead. No hum of systems, no soft light, just silence and dust. The chamber was filled with ancient stasis mirrors, each holding a memory like a soul suspended in glass. Kaelen stepped forward, blood dripping from his cracked boots, and touched the nearest shard. He lit up. He staggered back as images flooded him. Him, as a child torn from his mother's arms. As a teenager subjected to neural flaying and obedience chips. As an adult, watching through Dominion command feeds as uncooperative, worlds were exterminated from orbit. A voice echoed in his skull, cold, familiar. "You were never meant to survive this mission, Warden." Kaelen turned. A holographic imprint of High Executor Maltrix, his commanding officer, flickered into view. Your death was the final blow. A Dominion operative caught sabotaging peace, executed publicly, an eternal wound upon Zarn trust. Kaelen's hands clenched. His entire life had been aimed at this moment. Not to kill, not to protect, but to die in disgrace. A tool, a disposable sin to be remembered in hatred. He screamed, a raw, animal sound, and smashed the mirror. It didn't shatter. It bled. Black fluid oozed from the cracks, writhing like worms, before evaporating into steam. Behind him a sound, movement, fast, silent. He spun just as a blade whistled past his neck, carving a shallow line across his jaw. Blood sprayed. The assassin was Dominion. Sleek, faceless, wrapped in phase cloth and plated with reactive nanosteel, its hands ended in bone-white razors humming with kinetic charge. Kaelen didn't speak. He moved. The two collided with the sound of thunder, Kaelen ducking low as the assassin's left arm snapped forward. A blade pierced Kaelen's thigh. He grunted, twisted, and slammed his elbow into the assassin's throat. It staggered, but didn't fall. Kaelen gripped its arm, yanked the embedded blade free from his own leg, and rammed it upward through the assassin's jaw. Bone cracked, sparks flew. Its eyes flickered. It laughed, a garbled, static hiss, and detonated. The explosion was small, surgical, but Kaelen was already diving backward, pain searing his leg as shrapnel peppered his side. The assassin's remains crumpled, smoking and twitching. He stared at it. They sent someone else to make sure I stayed dead. Kaelen staggered toward a console, gritting his teeth, and accessed the Dominion's black box logs from the archive. Coordinates, flight paths, ship IDs. One stood out. A diplomatic vessel Dominion marked, currently docked in the restricted tier above the Nexus. It never appeared on Zarn records, and its passenger manifest was blank. His eyes narrowed. The real architects were on board. He limped out of the null archive, the fire now forgotten, the pain reduced to background static. Above, war had erupted in the halls of diplomacy. Below, a betrayed assassin ascended toward his creators. And this time, he would not be their pawn. This time, Kaelen Virex would cut out the throat of the Dominion itself. Chapter 4. War or Deception. A blood. It stained Kaelen's hands, boots, chest, the spray patterns no longer even distinguishable between friend and foe. He ascended the spiral arteries of the Solari Ascendant, each level a rung on a ladder into madness. His thigh throbbed from the earlier blade wound, now sealed crudely with a molten mesh patch. His face was a mess of bruises and dried blood. But his mind was sharper than it had ever been. The Dominion had betrayed him. The Zarn wanted him dead. The galaxy believed him a monster. He had one play left. Deception. The diplomatic vessel, the ghost ship docked above the Nexus, was his target. Its cloaking grid was Dominion, and its location masked in Zarn blind spots. A ship of secrets, a ship of architects. Kaelen wasn't sure who he'd find inside, but he knew this. Someone aboard had authored the script of his death. He reached the final corridor before the launch deck. It was guarded. 5 Dominion specters, elites, cloaked in living armor, their bodies nearly indistinguishable from the shadows they stood within. Each carried a phase scythe, a weapon that could cut on the molecular level. Kaelen had trained beside them in the void vaults. They moved like thoughts, fast, unpredictable. He didn't hesitate. A smoke mine rolled from his hand, igniting mid-spin. Vision drowned in shadow. Then, a flicker of motion. Kaelen moved through it like liquid, a whisper among screams. The first specter died before his body hit the ground. Kaelen's blade passed beneath his chin, severing everything that made him a voice. The second turned, too slow. Kaelen drove a shiv into the gap in the chest plate, twisting until ribs cracked and heart muscle burst like fruit. The third and fourth reacted together. One swept low, the other struck high. Kaelen backflipped between them, feeling the top blade slice a thin line across his back. He gritted his teeth and caught the lower scythe mid-swing, using it to pivot his body. With one fluid motion, he ripped the blade free and jammed it backward into the fourth specter's visor. Glass exploded in a blossom of brain and bone. The last specter dropped his weapon and ran. Kaelen didn't chase. He kicked the launch bay door open. Inside the ship, silence. Silver walls, sterile floors, Dominion architecture. In the central control node stood a figure, female, tall, wrapped in diplomat's robes. Kaelen raised his blade. She turned, and he froze. It wasn't just a Dominion agent. It was strategist Kaelen Virex. His mother, older, hardened, her face a graveyard of expressions buried long ago. Her eyes glacial, devoid of shock. "I wondered how long you'd last," she said flatly. Kaelen's grip trembled. "You sent me to die." "No," she corrected. "I sent a weapon to detonate. You're not my son. You're the consequence of necessity." His vision darkened at the edges. All of this, the treaty, the staging, the oracle. "It was you." Kaelen nodded. "Of course. A public failure, a savage betrayal, a shattered hope. The Zarn would never trust again. Dominion would rally under fear, a perfect loop." He stepped forward. She didn't flinch. Kaelen raised the blade to her throat. "You lied to me my entire life." "I engineered you," she said, voice low and precise. "Lying is for equals." His blade quivered. Then something shifted behind him. A second presence. Tiala, still alive. Burned. Scarred. Holding herself upright with a blood-stain. She'd followed him. "Kaelen," she rasped. "Don't let her rewrite this again." Kaelen smiled. "You brought her? Good. You'll kill her." "That's how it ends. That's how it has to end. Blood on broadcast, grief, hatred." Kaelen looked at them both, then made his decision. With a flick of his wrist, he activated a pulse beacon. Hidden in the belly of the Ascendant, the planted charges flickered awake. The whole ship jolted. Across every major frequency, a feed burst to life. A live broadcast. Kaelen standing between the strategist and the oracle, both barely standing. The betrayer. The betrayed. And the witness. He spoke. To the Dominion, to the Zarn, to the ones who crafted me and the ones who hunted me. This is your peace. Then he stabbed the oracle through the chest. Blood exploded from Tiala's mouth. Her eyes widened. She collapsed, gracefully, tragically, into his arms. Kaelasa's face lit with joy. The feed surged in emotion, screams, curses, cries of horror pouring in from a dozen galactic sectors. Kaelen whispered to Tiala's ear, "Hold still." He slipped the blade out gently. It had missed everything vital. She was alive. Barely. "Stay down," he breathed. Then he turned and grabbed Kaelasa by the throat. "No more loops." He rammed the blade upward beneath her ribs. And she gasped. Kaelen twisted. Her body convulsed. A trickle of black blood ran from her lips. Her last look wasn't fear. It was satisfaction. Then she died. Kaelen dropped her. The broadcast cut. He vanished before anyone could stop him. And on the ruined Ascendant, peace talks resumed in whispered secrecy, while the galaxy reeled from the death of strategist Virex and the oracle martyrdom. Kaelen became myth, a phantom caught between vengeance and redemption, a ghost in the machine. Chapter 5. Shadows Never Rest. The Solarii Ascendant drifted like a crippled god through the upper thermosphere of the Zarn homeworld, its golden hull blackened with carbon scoring and shattered glass. Fires still burned across its spine. Evacuation ships fled like insects from a dying carcass. Above the ruin, warships loomed, Zarn and Dominion alike, snarling with barely contained aggression. But they did not strike. Not yet. Peace was alive but bleeding. Far below, in the sewer veins of the Ascendant's underhull, Kaelen Virex knelt beside the Oracle's unconscious body. Tiala's breathing was shallow, rhythmic, with pain. The blade wound, his blade, had narrowly missed her heart, but blood had filled her lungs, and her psionic link to the collective was severed. She was alive, because he had chosen to deceive the galaxy. Kaelen stood, barely. His body was a ruin, ribs cracked, leg torn open, a burn slashed across his spine. The kill switch in his skull had been deactivated only by pure rage. And yet, something cold and steady hummed inside him. He was no longer Dominion. He was something else. Above, the galaxy burned. The death of strategist Kaelasa had shattered the Dominion's diplomatic shield. Rumors whispered of treason, of civil divides. The footage of the Oracle's fall had triggered a wave of mourning among the Zarn, but her survival, hidden sacred, was a secret weapon Kaelen would protect until the day he died. They had tried to make him a martyr. He would become a plague instead. Footsteps echoed behind him. He spun, blade ready, but halted. A child. Zarn. Eyes wide, carrying a data rod and dressed in soot-covered robes. The boy offered it with trembling hands. Kaelen took it, activated it. A hologram blinked into existence. Tiala, recorded days ago. If you're watching this, Warden, I have failed. But I still believe in the bridge. They will never forgive us, but they may forget, if we survive long enough to remind them of peace. You must protect the seed. The war cannot win. Kaelen looked down. The boy trembled, clutching the Oracle's staff. A seed? A hope? Kaelen nodded. He took the boy under his arm, lifted Tiala onto his back, and limped into the shadows once more. 3 days later, edge of known space. The Dominion called it the Grave Ring, a galactic dead zone scattered with the bones of ancient fleets and the whispering carcasses of long-dead empires. Out here a ship waited, old, silent, without registry. Kaelen boarded it alone, dragging the corpse of another Dominion operative behind him, a man who had been sent to finish what Kalassa started. The crew of the ghost ship were not soldiers. They were forgotten. Zarn exiles, Dominion deserters, smugglers who hated war more than they loved profit. Kaelen laid the body down at the airlock, stripped the insignia from its armor, and crushed the helmet under his heel. "You've all heard the story," Kaelen growled, voice raw. "The assassin who killed peace. The monster." He dropped the insignia onto the metal floor. "Monster is dead. I buried him." He pointed to the stars. "There's still war out there. Still people like her." He motioned toward the unconscious Oracle, resting in the medbay stasis pod. "And they'll hunt us until the end." He picked up a stolen Dominion rifle. "Let's make them bleed for every mile?" The crew nodded. Some in fear, some in awe, all in agreement.